thanks everyone for joining. I'm going to start with just a brief introduction so you can already see my screen here for the live demo introduction to Open Social's online community platform. I'm Adéla, I'm Open Social's market development representative. I'm based in the Netherlands, but I am not Dutch myself, and I've been with the company for a little bit over a year. I'm giving this demonstration not only because it is something that I do on my day-to-day basis, but actually in my background, I've been always focused on digital marketing and sort of like focused on the online digital media and how you can engage with your members. And that's why even working in Open Social resonated so well with me. And over time, I transferred into being a market development representative. And now in my role, I have consulted hundreds and hundreds of organizations on their communities, on their choice of the community software, and helping them with the communities. And this is why I've took also all these insights from my discussions and also from several community experts and external sources to also put this presentation together and to help you get started with your community. So what do we have in store today? I prepared a short agenda. As mentioned before, by the way, feel free to drop your questions into the chat to welcome everyone as you're joining slowly. So in today's agenda, you can expect just a brief introduction of community softwares and what you can actually expect in community softwares and what's in Open Social. How you can build a community from step one. So that's also compiled from a variety of resources. And then I will also dive into the Open Social's features and practices. So I will show from the user perspective how you can use Open Social, how our clients use it. And then at the end, there will be a secure time for your questions and answers. So drop them in the chat and I will answer them at the end. So forwarding here, let's start with the introduction to community softwares. So when it comes to communities, it's sort of like a buzzword these days. It's very generic, and you might also immediately come directly to think about social media. And yes, while that is very much where it came from, community softwares have a bit of advantages over today's social media, and they can also help you actually own your community. So when it comes to the community features, so something that is to look out for and something that is also very much in majority of the community softwares is the basic community features, starting from interactive features like likes, commenting, messaging, mentioning other users. Also, users having the ability to have their own user profiles to portray themselves in the platform that you're looking to build for them. And there should, of course, be an activity stream, so sort of like a news feed to a place where everybody can come in and see what is happening in the community to always stay up to date. For example, in softwares like Open Social, there are always multiple community streams, including a community stream for the entire community, a personalized community stream for each user based on what they follow or what has been shared with them, and even group and specific user feeds. So it also gives you quite a lot of variety. And in addition, because already your community platform is one group of users who are focused on one topic, but you might actually want to structure your members and give them opportunities to join discussions based on topics that they want to share, or based on locations, for example. So you might also want to structure your users into groups. And it's also important to make sure that the right users see the right information in your platform. And that is something that also from Open Social, so there are, of course, lots of softwares available, and there are some are more flexible than others. And Open Social is one of the most flexible ones that is out there that actually allows you to create your whole entire structure of the software, the whole user journey, and also how you want to segment your users and who should see what. I will dive into that a little bit over time. But next to the community features in community software and in Open Social, you can actually benefit from a content management system. And that is what actually sets the whole tone and the whole feeling of the community. That is something that only you and your team can create. It is, for example, setting what information is going to be public, what information is going to be only visible to the users. Think about content like your home pages, what the users see when they actually visit the community, what is the explanation? Is there maybe an about page? Do you have community guidelines, or are there some official resources? So in Open Social, we have also split the content based on what your users can create and what you can create. So actually set this whole structure with a very simple and user-friendly interface, and you can actually design your own branding, give it your own look and feel so that it's completely tailored to your organization. I will cover a lot of this content furthermore, but just to give you an overview of what to expect in community softwares and how you can actually move from there. And that is so far only the heart of the community, because within a community, of course, you can have your members log in, you can provide them an activity stream and some content opportunities to network. But over time, you want to keep your members engaged and you want to actually grow with the community. Your users might have different needs and actually over time discover different topics, and you might also want to share different content with them. So that's where a lot of softwares like Open Social actually provide add-ons and extensions. In Open Social, so in today's presentation, I will not be showing any of the extensions, but you're more than welcome to reach out to me after this call to actually set up a deep dive into the extensions. But we actually offer extensions like dashboards focused on e-learning with courses, crowd innovation to promote your user engagement. There's also a resource library to offer a curated place of resources next to the content that you already provide. And there's so much more, from, for example, collecting forms and surveys to having real-time collaboration, real-time chatting, gamification, engagement automation, and so much more. Us as Open Social, we're not only there for you as a technical partner and a software provider, but we also make sure that your community can grow and you can keep up with your community. So we actually like to advise you on that, and we will also support you throughout the whole journey. And there aren't only extensions that are possible to extend with your community, but your community platform also will need to be integrated with other tools. So you might want to connect it with your CRM, or you might want to have an organizational login and additional features. So we can always enable integrations. That is something that is more in the further plans and is usually not a necessity for the communities to be there. But in the case that you would like to have, for example, connected with a CRM, we have quite a few integrations already available, and I'm more than happy to also discuss that with you later in the next steps. And how do we do it in Open Social? How did we actually come to it? So skipping a little bit of the introduction of the company. So we did actually originally start as a Drupal agency. We were building websites and web shops. But then we came up actually with the concept of Open Social, and it is built on Drupal. So what you will see is also the Drupal content management system. But thanks to that, because Open Social is actually open source, but we do also provide a software as a service version. So between those, there are very little differences, and I will today be covering also from both sides, so including the core features. And that is how you can also grow with it. So starting small, for example, starting with the core, and then grow on top of it, exactly like I mentioned with the extensions, integrations, and even custom development. So that is something that we can also take care of. And over time, that also enables growth. So not only us as Open Social, we provide you features to grow with, but we also constantly innovate. And thanks to the fact that we're built with Drupal, Drupal also innovates and is backed by a community of wonderful users. Also, thanks for the shout out, Michael, in the comments there. And we always like to contribute with the community. So anywhere from where you look at it, from how Open Social is started, from the Drupal community to what the software is, we're very much community-based, and we're also see that is going to be the vision in the next, in the foreseeable future. So that's just a little bit of an introduction of the open, community softwares. Of course, I could go on more into depth on the features, but I think it'll be more interesting a little bit to dive into the community building. So because this webinar was focused very much on the early stages of your community, so sort of when you're considering a community, or perhaps you've already been chatting about it with your colleagues, but you're not really sure where to go from there, how to build it, and how it can fit within your organization. And I have chats like that almost every day with prospects coming to our website, really looking into communities, but not really sure how much effort it's going to take or what you're going to need and how to really carry it from there. So I prepared 7 simple steps that can help you, or 7 actually items to consider when you're building your community or when you're considering it. So firstly, you should start with the community purpose, so sort of setting a goal to it. What is the community's goal? And it should also match with your organizational goals. So it's good to also reach out to the departments. What are their goals and how you can put multiple goals within one to achieve with one platform, because community softwares, they're very flexible and they can be used for lots of use cases. So you can also actually dream big. When it comes to the actually doing the community, you need to see what are your resources, what are the best practices, have there been any practices before, what is the budget that you have on board, what is the time, and what is the availability of your team members that you can actually have. So some of the things that to consider that are very internal to your organization before actually starting off with a process. From this research, you can then start with, for example, goals and targets. So setting some key performance indicators and setting some metrics. How will you actually achieve it? Because each community is very unique, has its own goals. So these metrics and indicators will differ per community. A lot of them are, for example, on the number of members that are in the community, but it's actually more important to measure the engagement and sort of if your users are getting the value. So it's important to consider a lot of different points. And not only the internal users, but also your users themselves, of course. Then some of the following steps are, after setting the goals and targets, is thinking about the structure and content. As I mentioned earlier, in open social, you can actually decide how the software itself is structured, and it can communicate your own specific message. So you need to prepare the content a little bit ahead, so you can just easily get on board and set up with the software. And what it will also affect quite a lot is choosing the platform. So you can either go platform first and grow with your strategy from there, or you can build your strategy and then look for a platform that fits your needs. There's, of course, different approaches to this. And then it's also important to think about the community management. So step number 6, who is actually going to be taking care of the community? Who will be your community manager? Are there community experts, for example? Do you have expert topics? Do you need volunteers to manage some groups? It's quite important to think about this ahead and see who can do what for you. And of course, lastly, when you're actually thinking about the community, so not only preparing the structure, but how you will engage with your members. That also takes a little bit of effort. If there's, for example, a specific tone of voice, will you comment with them? How are you going to actually interact? And how will you recognize your user activity? So that's also something to think about on the steps. But with that being said, I think that these are great steps, but I personally am not a community strategy myself, but I've gathered these tips from what I've collected around and from talking to hundreds of organizations. So us as Open Social, we also got you from that site. So we've prepared not only quite a lot of resources, including, for example, community building guides with 10 steps for your first year of community building. We also have a community software buying guide that can help you answer a few questions. We prepared a community platform wish list. And we even have a strategic consultant who is a part of Open Social, who is more than happy to actually consult with you and provide consultancy services to help you in your community, including from step 1 to actually running the community. And with that being said, let's see what we have here. So we're continuing with an introduction of Open Social. So that was just a little bit of a summary of how you can build your community. And I don't want to keep you on your toes anymore, and I'm going to forward to the Open Social demonstration. So here's just a brief introduction. I will not go over all of these slides, as I will actually share the presentation pitch deck with you afterwards, and it will be included with the follow-up email. But some of the basic points is that we're built with Drupal, and we work with more than 1,000 organizations, or more than 1,000 organizations are actually using Open Social for their purpose. So what does Open Social actually look like? I think that a lot of the attendees here are already a bit familiar with what the Open Social platforms look like. But I do want to start on actually our Open Social client community. It's communitytalks.getopensocial.com. And as you can see here, it is branded to Community Talks. It is under our own domain, and it is designed to our specific needs. So I've previously mentioned that in Open Social, you have the content management system that you can leverage for example, landing pages. You can create basic pages and book pages as a site manager. So this is something that you and your team can create to really provide the whole structure of the platform. And with these landing pages, so I do always like to compare it a little bit to a website. So if you're familiar with working with any website management system, you will be very easily onboarded to Open Social, and you can also easily restructure your own landing pages, create as many as you need, and enable them to communicate your own specific message. On these, you can, of course, feature some information. You can feature some content from the community, even user-generated content, or you can, for example, have simple accordions or any external links as well. There's also, of course, a customizable footer. So even though it's provided by Open Social, technically no one even has to know that it's made by Open Social. And to continue a little bit with, just before I actually get into the interactive feature, I'll just summarize a little bit of the content. So next to these landing pages, which are quite complex and dynamic, you can actually create more static content. For example, book pages here. As you can see, here are manuals and site settings. And I have it already popped up here as a book page, which will communicate some of the manuals. By the way, you can also visit this after this call, by the way. And you can actually see a lot of the static content. Also, anything you can embed on the internet, you can embed it in Open Social. So that includes like videos, podcasts, uploading even documents, anything to actually provide a lot of resources. And where these book pages also have quite a lot of power is that they have a very nice table of contents, because the book pages, it also by the name suggests that it can be a book. So you can actually structure these in a specific way to communicate the right information. We see in practice that this is quite often used as community guidelines to communicate some information that can be flipped through as a book, for example, your vision, or even simple e-learning documents. Next to these book pages, we do also have basic pages, which is just a one-off page, for example, very handy for about pages or one-off messages that you don't need any response from. Before logging in then, there are some features, because you can see that this structure and also the menu here is specific to the platform here. So that is something that you also have control over on your own platform. But something that is static is the search box, as of course you want your users to be able to find all the right content. So there is a handy search box on the platform itself, where you can immediately search all of the content, as well as filter through the specific structure that you have created. Which then brings me to how to structure your content, because you might be wondering, all right, I can structure my users into specific groups, but how can I actually structure the content? So that is something that you also have control over. You can completely design your own tagging system, your content tags, even tags to user profiles, and how the users can find it. So for example, here under the filters, you can see that I can filter by the content type and the tags, which is the tags that we have created specifically for community talks. And you can create your own categories and for your users to select from. And your users are able to assign this to the content as well, so they can also create well-structured material. To continue here, I do want to show a little bit of the login, but as Community Talks is our client community, so at the moment you do not get access to it, but our clients have, we actually have the sign up disabled. So that is also something to consider when you're creating your community. Should it be public? Should it be private? Should it be a combination of both? And what content should be public then, and what content should be visible when you're logged in? Now that's also very easily indicated whenever you create a landing page, a book page, or even inside events and groups, you can indicate who can see it. And by disabling or enabling the sign up, you can also control who is in your community. To give you a different taste of a platform, I opened here the community from Homeless Glen, which is an institute in Australia, and they have their student and alumni and staff community with open social. And not only did they create their own structure with a landing page, for example, with an activity stream here featuring some of the public activities, implementing their own menu, but they do also have an open sign up and login. When it comes to the signing up, we have a standard sign up process. So there is, of course, an email address and username, but this registration process can actually be tailored to your specific needs. So for example, having social media login, that is one of our optional extensions. Or customizing this registration form. Would you like to collect more information from your users before they actually enter the platform? We can, of course, customize this as well. And most importantly, also because unlike today's social media, with your community platform, you actually own your data. So you need to make sure that your users feel safe and they are open to sharing. So that's why we also make sure that all of our platforms can be GDPR compliant. So you have all the right features to actually create your own data policy to manage the consent of your users and making sure that everybody on the platform is aware of what is happening with their data. So that is all a question, and we of course help you with that, and you can customize this specifically to your needs. And further, for your users to log in, so of course to save them, for example, from remembering an additional password, this is where the social media login can come in quite handy. So they're just in with one click. And you can even control how difficult their passwords needs to be in case you want to have them have a super secure password. That was a little bit of the registration process. So I'm not going to log in into the Homeless Glen community to give you a preview of the site manager features, but I will be using a demo environment here, which I have popped up, and it is actually created under the Open Social brand. So not only is this a different platform with a different look and feel, but I am actually logged in, and I'm not logged in as a regular member. I'm logged in as a site manager, which is a role that will be sitting with you and your team. So this is why I also have this menu on the side here. So this is where I can actually manage the content. So just to give you a brief overview of all the site manager features that you can see. So you can see all the content that both you and your users have created, and you can easily manage it, edit it, or delete it. So again, you can see that if you're familiar with any content management system, you can just easily navigate through it, add content, select what exactly you need to create, and for example, a landing page, and just go from there. With a few clicks, you're almost ready. Indicate who can see this content, and build then the body with specific sections. Of course, this differs per type of content, but you can see that within a few seconds, I already created a landing page, and it doesn't take a whole amount of reading through the manual to understand how this works. Next to managing the content, I do also have, I can also manage the groups as a site manager, of course, so it's important to see who is where. I just do want to point out here that this is a demo environment, so it is not like a live environment. That's why there can be a very low number of members, but just to give you an overview. And of course, you can also manage all of the people and all of the users on the platform. So that it doesn't include only, for example, accepting them into the platform. So you might also want to have like an approval system to it. You might also want to have specific roles assigned to them. You might want to see, for example, blocking the users. Those are all possibilities that are possible within Open Social. and even selecting the users and sending an email to the users is possible next to the automated emails. I see some questions in the chat. I'm going to answer a majority of them. For example, with Google, I'm going to answer that a little bit later, and with the paid memberships as well. When it comes to the badges, by the way, Marco, this is one of our extensions on the website, the badges and certificates, which is linked to our courses, and they can be rewarded based on the courses. So it is an optional extension. Coming to the settings, also Karine, quickly to answer that, extensions are paid. Yes, they are an additional fee. I'm more than happy to also discuss that after this call. So since I have summarized a little bit of the site manager features, actually, and there you can also access the full dashboard of the settings. Your users do also have quite a lot of functionalities, not only including, for example, their user profile. So here there are some basic tags, very much in line with what you're used to on today's media or on today's website, so that your users can also immediately log in and know where exactly what is. Each user has their own personalized profile, which they can populate with information, manage, and actually see other user profiles as well. There's some contact information, but of course you do also have full control over the user profile. So what the users can see, what your users need to fill in, what are the tags, is the public information, is the contact information publicly visible, or is it visible to the community? That is also in your control. Users are never really visible outside of the platform, so only after you log in to protect their own their identity. Next to that, for your users, they do of course receive notifications, so it's very important to stay up to date with what has been happening on the platform. They do also receive emails to stay up to date and always be pulled back to the platform as well, and it's important to get that traffic there. You can easily, as a user, also access your groups. And also, since I'm going over these buttons, by the way, I do want to mention that you can actually enable or disable these buttons, so that the messaging inbox or this groups button, you can also disable it. As a user within the groups, I can then access my groups. I will go over them in a bit. Each user also has a messaging functionality, so they can have messages one-on-one or group messages. This is more of like a generic messages. This is private to the user, so they can also have a private conversation. And we can also upgrade it with a real-time chat, which will be one of our additional extensions. And the last button here that I have is the button to create content. So of course, as a site manager, I can create all of this content, including like book pages, but your end users can create events, topics, and groups. And you can also further control if they can create groups, and we can also control for you if they can create events and topics. While I'm showing this, I just want to point out that courses, discussions, challenges, and dashboard are our paid extensions, so they do not come in the Open Social features or in the Open Social Core package. So to come to the homepage, because I have actually designed a separate homepage. So by the way, you can have one public homepage and one homepage after your users log in to communicate different information. And here I, for example, have an activity stream where I, as a user, can easily jump in. I can post in here like Julie just did, and we can also comment and mention each other in the comments. So it's also quite easy to understand, and you can have a very simple discussion. To also differentiate here, so we do see that we have some groups here, for example, created a very simple landing page or an overview page, so you can actually easily filter through these groups. And also from the first glance, you can see that there are different types of groups. So there's a flexible group and a public group. This will also indicate the visibility. So if I'm creating a new group, I will be immediately presented with the options. Do I want to have it a public group? Do I want to have it open or closed where the users can join by invitation? Or is it secret where nobody should even see that the group exists unless they're invited to the group? Or is it a flexible group where I can then also control these specific settings? So those are a lot of the choices that you can make, not only when it comes to the content, when it comes to user profiles, but also the groups itself. And here, when I'm creating the group, I can then also decide on specific visibilities, how to join, how the users can join this specific group, and what the group looks like. So including the title, description, of course, all of these settings. Popping here to the created group after I finished it. So it's a motivation group. Again, very much in line with the design of the pages, so that it's very easily to understand. And each group on its own has a specific activity stream and about section. You can create events, topics, members, and also if you're a site manager or group admin, you can also manage your members. So that includes managing who are the users, making more users group admins, or for example, even sending emails to the group members. While I'm here, by the way, I'm reading also the chat while I'm presenting here. I just want to answer one of the questions, if the platform is responsive and does it work on mobiles? It absolutely does. So not only do we make sure that the platforms are responding, so you can see immediately that the platform adapts to the screen, and it actually has all the exact functionalities. We do also work with a progressive web app, which is included in all of the packages. So it would be just a progressive web app. Or we then also have the extension native app, where we can actually build a native app placed in the Google and Apple stores specifically for your platform, so that your users can download it from there with all the functionalities exactly from your desktop version. So just to summarize that a little bit, but I showed that a little bit on the groups before venturing into the events and topics. Also from a member level, so of course your users, they do have their own profile and they fill in quite a lot of information, but like, how do they actually find each other? And it's a bit interesting to always monitor how your users like to find each other. Is it, for example, by interests? Do they prefer to find each other in specific groups? Or should they even be able to search each other? So you can always see who the members of the specific groups are. There are also overview pages that allow you to see who are all the members in this one community. So you can see all of the members that are in the community. Or of course, when you search after you're logged in as a member, you can also search through all of the members. So let me just quickly run an empty search to show you that also a little bit. And inside of here, you have the filter by users. And here you can even filter by the specific expertise and interests and tags that they have on their user profiles. There are, of course, a lot more functionalities in here. I'm trying to keep it brief and I'm not going into all the details, but just so you know that there is also a lot of customizability over this, including, for example, the expertise and interest. That's like a list that you can pre-create for your users to select from, so they can also consistently use the same expertise and interests. And profile tags or organizational tags, which is this little check mark next to Julie's name, is something that only site managers can assign to user profiles to actually categorize them from a site manager perspective. So there are also lots of ways how you can enable your users to find each other and to easily connect with each other. And you can see that always there's a quick call to action, private message directly from the overview. And let's then zoom in on events and topics, as those I haven't covered yet. So events, in the Open Social Core package, you get offline events, so which means that every time they can be with a specific location. They are linked to a geolocation, to a map as well, so you can actually geolocate them and the users can find them from a map where there's a nearby one. And of course, we can also enable online events, which is one of our additional extensions. So we also have an integration with Zoom and Big Blue Button to actually enable online events directly in the platform. But again, in the core features, you have the simple offline events. You can even create your own event type. So here it's called a group meetup with events. You can have it named anything, meeting, workshop, webinar, conference, anything that you need specifically. So whenever you're creating a new event, you get to indicate what event type it is. Here I have a specific time and date to it, of course, adding it to the calendar, following and unfollowing content, and creating some body. And of course, when it comes to being interactive, also you can always decide if the users can comment under the content or they cannot comment under the content. So by default, it's always on, but you can turn it off if it's a one-off piece. And for events, there are other standard functionalities, for example, setting how many organizers there are. This join meeting, this would be for the Big Blue Button integration. So this is one of our extensions. Here is what the content tags look like. These are also clickable. So if I click it, I will be directed to all the content that is tagged with it. And in our newest release, your users can also follow these tags. So they're always up to date with the specific topic. And you can always see who has enrolled. There are a lot of other functionalities with it. For example, deciding who can see this event, who can enroll for this event, how they can enroll for this event, and if this is shareable, not shareable. And even if, for example, you decide to have it a public event, you can enable users who don't have an account on your platform yet to still enroll for the event. They have to fill in some contact information so you can capture the data, and over time you can then keep in touch with them and convert them into members in your community. So there are quite a few functionalities to it, including, for example, emailing to these attendees. But there's also lots of use cases to these events. You can have them sitting in a specific group or for specific events. Then, just before I leave it off, the events, again, I want to just point out here that both your users can create these events and you can create these events for your members. And the last thing that is in the content management system, sort of, that I haven't shown yet is topics. And topics is a generic term on purpose, as each one of our clients uses it differently. We can also rename the content type, but essentially it is a content that both you and your members can create. Similarly, like with events, you can actually create your own topic type. So here you can see that I indicated as a discussion, a blog, or I can call it news, an update, a question, an opinion, anything that seems to fit with your community. You can create your own topic types. And when I come into the to the specific topic, so for example, this welcome to the group, I can easily see the author. Again, I can follow it, tag it, and embed some media here, and even have a comment section. They can also be enabled or disabled. There are quite a bit of functionalities to these. Also, for example, uploading files here, so you can easily do that. And compared to the other content where I always had the sharing buttons, because this topic specifically has the visibility of a group only, I cannot share it on social media. So the system also automatically makes sure for you that the right content is visible to the right people and that nobody can see it. And that was just a little bit of the content here. So that is what are the functionalities in the core features. But there are, of course, more functionalities that are not always visible to the members themselves. So here I'm going to pop into the site manager dashboard here. So with a community, it's also always important to make sure that you have some targets and maybe some key performance indicators, and you want to really be able to see what your users are up to. So there is a built-in dashboard with some KPI analytics, which is directly in the Open Social Core, including how often your users log in, how much interaction and engagement they have, how well they interact with your events, with your topics, and who actually creates them. This is also differentiated by community manager and the community members themselves, and by topics like events, by likes, comments, and enrollments on the event. So it actually gives you a lot of overview. There's quite a lot of blocks here that you can continuously track. As this is more on a content level, you might also want to consider doing user analytics. So that is something that you can always do from the user overview, where you can then select the right users, and under actions here, I can export the users to a CSV sheet. In this CSV sheet, I get a lot of information on the user. So not only all the information that is on their user profile, but also all the activities that they did, how many comments they made, how many likes they made, how many topics they engaged with, etc., etc. You can, of course, further analyze this and stay up to date with the users. And if the core analytics that I have just mentioned are not enough, we can also further integrate with Google Analytics or Matomo Analytics to have enable you to have more insights into your users. Just before I open the Q&A section, I just want to do a quick scroll through the dashboard to give you a bit of a feeling of what you have control over. So not only do you see the statistics here, content management, but you can also manage the people. So for example, who is on your platform, how they can register, what their profile looks like, etc. You have some of the configuration, for example, setting some of the home pages, setting your own tagging system and structure, and some of the optional functionality. So you can actually get control over almost anything, like can anonymous users sign up? Can people socially share? Can people enroll for events? How does this work? You have a lot of control over it, but bear in mind you're not alone with it, because us as Open Social, we are actually there for you, not only our customer success managers, but also our consultants and our sales team. We always make sure that you understand all of these settings and that they're set correctly before you launch. So we also provide extra services, but there's also other options like setting the menu, setting the appearance, and setting your own data policy. So as we are in the last 20 minutes of this call, I'm just going to start going by the questions that you have actually entered in the chat. Feel free to also unmute if you want to add to the question. I'm going to go from the top, the first one. So first I had here from Michael, how is Open Social involved with Google or Alphabet? I'm not sure what you're referring to here, because I don't know, Michael, if you're open to unmuting and explaining a little more about your question.
Hi, do you hear?
Hi.
Do you understand me?
Yes.
Okay. I heard that Open Social was implemented by, or as a company by Google or by a Google member, and I wanted to know if it's still in contact or a subsidiary of Google now.
Oh, no. So Open Social, as far as I know, does not have any relations or was not created by Google. We were actually originally an agency, a Drupal agency, which was a spin-off from one of the Dutch universities. But I can also look into that and follow up with you just to double check there.
Sorry, I think I know what he's talking about. There's like another Open Social thing that's like without the space. That was like some kind of a Google thing, but I think it was discontinued.
Yes, I think it's a similar name, just a
yes,
similar
yes, name. Yeah, I've seen it before.
Yeah, so yeah, that is possible. Thanks for jumping in. Then the next question was from Kate here. Does Open Social allow for paid memberships? So paid memberships and sort of even having like paid ticketing system and sort of paid other functionalities. It is not in functionality in Open Social yet, but as I'm actually saying that we are currently working on and developing that feature specifically, and we're going to launch it out throughout this year to actually allow your members to have specific paid memberships, also with their user roles, and also paid content, for example, like paid events, paid courses, etc. Next question was, what are the badges? So that I previously also explained a little bit that there are paid extension. If our extensions are paid, yes, they are paid. And from Felipe, we have two questions. So can I follow people and or be friends with someone as a user? So users cannot follow each other in Open Social simply because from experience, we found that people actually don't like to follow users specifically, but they like to follow based on topics and the knowledge that they're sharing. So rather than letting your users follow by the users, we allow them to subscribe to the groups and to actually follow content tags so they can always stay up to date with the specific topic. But that being said, just because it's not possible in Open Social currently doesn't mean that it will never be possible. And we're always more than happy to see if we could implement it for your platform. And I do think that we might also have something similar on the roadmap upcoming. By the way, as I'm answering these questions, and if you have any follow-up additional questions, feel free to unmute and just jump in so that we can handle them. Otherwise, I'm just going to go through the list of the questions that are in the chat. Next question was from Felipe. Is there an extension for live chat like Facebook chat? Yes, there is. So you saw that there is a built-in direct messaging functionality, but we do also have the extension real-time chat, which then enables you to have specific real-time chatting. It will pop up on the site, and you can just chat in real time, also see when the users are typing, etc. Next question was, can you run a paid extension on a self-hosted open social install? From Mike. Yes, you can, but our extensions, unlike our open social core, are not open source. So they do come with a paid additional fee as well, but we're more than happy to also enable you to use them on your self-hosted platform. From Kate, can users add additional images to their profiles like a portfolio? Yes, so that is also something that we have already released. So in our next release was actually an album feature where your users can upload not only one image to the post, but they can upload multiple images, they can create their own albums, and that will also be visible on their user profile, so they have a very specific album on their profile. It is also one of the core functionalities, by the way. Then another question I have here, is it possible to have a custom themes? Do site managers get access to styles and scripts? So to give you the best idea of there, let me jump into the appearance here, because the CSS theme of Open Social is not customizable yet. But you can, of course, customize the whole color palette. It will also be specifically reflected here. You can change the favicon, the logo, the page element display, and items like, for example, border radius, email, and the gradient over the hero images. So while that is not possible yet, Open Social, we're going through a decoupling stage where we're decoupling the front and the back end so that it is on our mission over time for later stages to actually allow you to have more control over the front end as well. But these are the options for now. Next question was, can the users upload video content? Just to give a little bit of details there, because you might know that uploading images and uploading videos have quite a different in file size. So that's why video uploading is one of our additional extensions, which we can always enable. Otherwise, you can always embed videos from, for example, YouTube or Vimeo or any other tool on the internet that allows you to embed videos, and you can easily have them within the platform, also watchable from the platform. Next question was, is it possible to integrate social media accounts with this? I have earlier showed that on the HomeScan platform here that yes, you can indeed easily log in with your social media logins. That includes sign up and logging in. For an integration, for example, I don't know if that you mean like having the follow button or having maybe the embedded activity stream in the platform. So again, assuming that the social media that you're referring to, because for example, Instagram has depreciated it, but like Twitter and Facebook, you can absolutely embed the feeds from the social media in Open Social. Next question was, is there a possibility to integrate event management, participants management? Yes, there is. We'll need to know a little more detail, so I hope we can connect a little bit over that. For example, what exactly is the other integration that you would like to integrate with, and what you would like them to do, and then I can provide more details on that one. From Manoj.
Okay.
Yes?
Hi. I asked, is it possible like to integrate like an Excel sheet or having like a response system after the after people applied for an event?
You mean so that you can see like who has actually registered for it and sort of like the follow-up process after it as well?
Yes, right.
Yes, absolutely. So because in the events already, so you can like on all events, I can already see all the signups and I can, for example, export them to a CSV sheet. Similarly, we can also import a CSV sheet of the members. When it comes to the follow-up, so there are some automated emails, or we can, for example, integrate with tools like MailChimp that let you do automated newsletters. Is that what you were looking for?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect, no problem. So if the platform is responsive, I've already shown that question. Let me see if there are any other questions. Can the group have a group manager? Yes, each group has its own group manager, and it can also be anybody from the platform, whether it's a site manager or one of your end users. So anybody can be a group manager. Whoever creates a group automatically becomes a group manager. Next question was, what are the 3 main advantages of OpenSocial compared to others, for example, Yammer? So a great example with Yammer. So Yammer is I would say a whole lot simpler tool than OpenSocial, and I don't mean that negatively, by the way, but it does have like various use cases because Yammer is a lot more focused on like the one-off messaging and sharing with a post, and for example, organizational news, and we see in practice more organizations use it for example, internal messaging or like one-way messaging. With OpenSocial, because your users and your members can create so much and they can engage and actually help you run the community, it's really a member-powered community. So this way you can actually enable your users and to also over time grow them. There's lots of advantages to it. For example, even like owning your data, being able to customize the entire structure. So with Yammer, you get the static structure, but with OpenSocial, you can actually design it. And it is also sitting under your own branding. So unless you specifically put the OpenSocial brand on your platform, nobody also knows that it's from OpenSocial. To continue with the questions, also, by the way, on our website, we do have handy comparisons of OpenSocial where you can actually directly compare OpenSocial to other platforms and see the specific advantages of it. Next question was, why has getOpenSocial.com been implemented with WordPress and not OpenSocial itself? I'm not sure where you saw that information. You mean the getOpenSocial.com, the website. That's because the OpenSocial is a community engagement platform and not a website builder. So of course we did evaluate it for our own website, but a website versus a community platform is just very different, and that's why we chose WordPress. Very great question, Michael. Next question was, what about mobile SDKs on iOS and Android if we want to go for a mobile app? So absolutely, you can have also a native app. So not only are the platforms already responsive, but we can actually create your own native app that is also downloadable in the Apple Store and in the Google Play Store, specifically under your own brand as well. So I can even give you an example here. If I jump into the policykitchen.com platform, where they have a platform, for example, with a dashboard, but then they have their native apps here on the App Store. You can see under their own branding with also the specific content directly to them. Next question was from Tim. Can users decide if they'd like to receive private messages also via email? Absolutely, your users have full control over what email they receive, how often they receive them, and whether they receive them at all, just to make sure that we're also GDPR compliant, not that we're compliant, but that you're also compliant there. So they do have all of these control settings as well. Felipe, can any user create events? Also, is it necessary for them to have a Zoom account to integrate? So by default, yes, any user can create events, but you can always restrict it. So for example, we can disable your users from creating events, or we can only enable a specific user role for creating events. That is up to you. With the Zoom account, when it comes to the platform, you do need to have your own account and license for the Zoom integration. It depends on how many events are already running in there, because with Zoom, you can only have one running event at a time. And if you want to have multiple events, you have to have separate licenses. So that depends on the specific use case, how you want to use them. I'm more than happy to also chat with you on that and find out which one will be best for you. Just because we're going into the last 5 minutes, by the way, I'm gonna just try to answer as many questions as I can. In case that you cannot stay a little bit longer, thanks so much for joining. If you can, please do, and feel free to also have a chat, so I'll continue answering these questions. The next question was, how many users can be supported on a host platform? Is there any limitation to have large numbers, say 1,000, 100,000 or more users? There is no limitation to it, but we do just like to know what are the sort of numbers that you're looking at, so we can make sure that the hosting capacity on the platform is optimal for the number of users that you have. And it is not always defined by the number of total users that you have, but by the number of active users and how often, what they actually do on the platform. But no, there are no limitations. For example, we do have communities that have more than 60,000 users. We do have communities that are smaller, but we're also launching much bigger communities. Next question was, do you have an example of generating insights, combining user information with quick surveys? Yes, I can show that, but it is one of our extensions. It will be great if we can do that in a follow-up call. If you'd like to dive into the forms and surveys extension, it does show the results in OpenSocial. Next question was, can we add our own features the way we add groups and custom modules? So that depends on which version of OpenSocial you're using. For example, with the open source distribution, absolutely, you can create your own features, you can customize it, you can custom develop on it, but of course you do have to know quite a lot of development and how the software works in and out. In the software as a service version, which we provide, is we can customize these features for you. So us as OpenSocial, we can actually develop these features specifically for your platform. Or we can also come to a co-development agreement and see, for example, if your team can take care of some of the development and that we just implement it. So that also specifically depends on what you would like to have implemented as a custom feature here. Can we set an approval process before a user or a member can host an event? So not yet, not as far as I know, but we can always look into ways how we can actually do this. For example, disabling your user from creating the events, or maybe even setting the default visibility of user-created events to having them community only, so that nobody else can see the event. There are lots of ways how we can actually customize the platform. Next question was, can group managers delete other users' group posts if someone posts something that does not belong in a specific group and goes against the group guidelines? Yes, of course. So a group manager can manage their own group, but there are also the site managers and community manager who can also edit and delete any of the content on the platform, whether it was user created or created by the site managers. And by the way, there are also reporting features, for example, if the content is inappropriate, if it's abusive or anything like that. So also your community members can help you out there. Next question was, could a job board be created, volunteer opportunity created in OpenSocial? Could something be connected with an API or an extension? So a job board is actually something that we're currently working on as well, and we're planning on having that also in OpenSocial sometime this year. The timeline hasn't been defined yet, otherwise I will give you a more specific date, but I do know we're going through the finalizing of the concept stage and actually seeing how we're building it. We're building it with one of our clients. And I think that may have been all of the questions, because after that I just see thank you. By the way, thank you everyone for joining. I really hope that this was insightful. As the last step, just to give you a little bit of a goodbye, so I do have here contact me. So please, I will reach out to you also after this call with not only a follow-up with some handy resources. We will also be sharing the recording with you of this demo, so you can share it with your team and for future reference. And in the next steps, if you'd like to actually have a demonstration personalized on your use case, I'm more than happy to set it up. Or if you'd like to dive into specific extensions, or in the case that you're going through the early stages of your community, I'm also more than happy to set up a call with one of our community strategists and see how we can help you get started with your community. And that was it for today. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining. And have the great evening. In the Netherlands here now is getting sunny finally, and I hope it's also the same wherever you are, from the US or from Malaysia. Thanks for joining again, and have a great day.